They tried to break me. I turned them into memories. Nothing says date night like your wife starring on Amateur Hour with another man while you're fixing a carburetor at midnight. The FaceTime call came through on Maya's old iPad, the one she thought she'd hidden in the garage. I'd been elbowed deep in my Mustang's engine when the chime echoed off the concrete walls. The screen lit up with Trevor Hale's smug face, all perfect teeth, and Jim's sculpted jaw. "Hey, beautiful." He purred to someone off camera. "Show me what you learned in that yoga class." That's when Maya stepped into frame, wearing nothing but the diamond necklace I'd bought her for our 15th anniversary. The same necklace she'd claimed was too flashy when I'd given it to her last month. I wiped my greasy hands on a rag and hit the screen record button. Evidence is the new currency in modern marriage. And I was about to get rich. God, Trevor, what if Jason sees this? Maya giggled, doing things I hadn't seen her do since our honeymoon. "Relax, babe. Your husband's probably passed out on the couch with a beer gut in ESPN highlights. Besides, real men don't snoop through their wives' devices." Wrong on both counts, pretty boy. I watched for another 5 minutes, my hand steady despite the rage building in my chest. Maya performed like she was auditioning for something and Trevor directed her with the confidence of a man who'd never been punched in the face by a former Army Ranger. When they finished their little show, I saved the video to 3 different cloud accounts and made 2 backup copies on encrypted drives. Then I walked back to my Mustang and continued working on the engine, whistling softly. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. Maya came home at 2 a.m. claiming she'd been at Clara's house discussing girl stuff. Clara Reyes, her best friend and former employee of mine, until I'd fired her for embezzling petty cash 3 years ago. Funny how that detail suddenly seemed relevant. I pretended to be asleep. When Maya slipped into bed, reeking of cheap cologne and guilt. She'd showered somewhere else, but she couldn't wash off the scent of betrayal. The next morning, I made coffee and pancakes like nothing had happened. Maya sat at our kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with the same fingers that had been all over Trevor 12 hours earlier. "Sleep well?" I asked, setting down her favorite mug. "Like a baby," she lied, not looking up. Claire and I talked until almost midnight about her divorce proceedings. Fascinating. Pass the syrup. Our daughter, Alex, bounced into the kitchen, 17 years old, and convinced she knew everything about everything. She had Ma's dark hair and my stubborn streak, a combination that made her dangerous at breakfast conversations. "Dad, can I borrow $50 for the movies tonight?" "Ask your mother. She's the one with the high-paying job." Maya shot me a look over her coffee cup. "Jason's just bitter 'cause I make more money than him." "I'm not bitter about your success, honey. I'm proud of how hard you work. All those late nights at the office, weekend conferences, evening training sessions." I let the words hang in the air like smoke. Alex grabbed the money from Maya's purse and headed for the door. "You two are weird. Most couples fight about normal stuff." If only she knew. After Alex left for school and Maya departed for her law firm, I opened her laptop. She had never changed the password from our anniversary date, which struck me as either sentimental or stupid. Probably both. Her email was a goldmine of infidelity. Lunch dates disguised as client meetings. Weekend getaways labeled as legal conferences. A paper trail of lies stretching back 4 months. Each one more elaborate than the last. But the real treasure was in her calendar app. Every Tuesday and Thursday, personal training with Trevor. Bring workout gear. Last Thursday's entry included a note. "Remember the new toys from that shop downtown?" I screenshot everything, organized it into folders, and uploaded it all to a secure server. Then I did something that would have made my old Army intelligence buddies proud. I installed a keylogger on her laptop and cloned her phone to mine. Knowledge is power, and I was about to become very powerful indeed. Trevor Hale lived in Sunset Gardens, which was neither sunset-themed nor garden-adjacent. It was a collection of beige apartment buildings surrounding a kidney-shaped pool that hadn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. I'd spent 3 days learning his routine. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons with Maya. Monday nights at O'Malley's bar playing pool. Wednesday evenings at the community college teaching a cryptocurrency investment class to suckers who thought Bitcoin was still the future. Friday afternoon, I knocked on his door wearing my old army dress uniform and carrying a prop tool I'd bought at a costume shop. The Magnum looked real enough to make an impression, especially to a civilian who'd probably never seen actual military hardware. Trevor answered in silk boxers and a tank top, probably expecting Maya for another training session. "Jason Ford," I said, pushing past him into the apartment. "Maya's husband. We need to talk." The color drained from his face like water from a broken sink. "Look, man. I don't know what you think is happening, but nothing." I pulled out the prop tool and set it on his coffee table between a stack of fitness magazines and an empty protein shake container. "Sit down, Trevor. We're going to have a conversation about respect." He sat hard. "That's a beautiful piece," I said, nodding toward the fake Magnum. "Military issue. I carried one just like it in the Middle East. You know what we used to do with our tools at the end of each day?" Trevor shook his head, his eyes locked on the tool. "We cleaned them, polished them until they gleamed. It's a ritual, really. Shows respect for the tool that keeps you alive." I picked up the prop tool and held it out to him. "I think you should. Polish this one, Trevor. Show some respect." "I don't understand." "Sure you do. You've been playing with my wife like she's your personal toy. Now you get to play with mine." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Polish it, Trevor. Use that mouth that's been whispering sweet lies to Maya." What happened next would have made excellent blackmail material if I'd been that kind of person. Instead, I just wanted to watch a smug gym trainer where I realized he wasn't the alpha male he pretended to be. When Trevor finished his humiliating Tyler, I put the prop tool away and sat across from him. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, pulling out a manila envelope. "Maya's going to sign these separation papers. She's going to transfer her half of the house to me, and you're going to disappear from our lives like a bad dream. You can't make us." I slapped him. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, but firm enough to get his attention. Trevor's head snapped to the side, and when he looked back at me, there were tears in his eyes. "I just did," I said. "Maya will be here in 20 minutes for your usual Thursday appointment. When she arrives, you're going to show her this video of you polishing my tool, and then you're both going to sign these papers. Understood?" Trevor nodded, holding his cheek. "Good boy." Maya arrived exactly on schedule, carrying a gym bag that definitely didn't contain workout clothes. She found Trevor sitting on his couch, staring at his phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. "What's wrong, baby?" she asked when setting down her bag. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Your husband was here," Trevor mumbled. Ma's face went through several expressions. In rapid succession. Confusion, fear, anger, and finally calculation. She was a divorce attorney after all. Damage control was her specialty. What did he want? Trevor showed her the video on his phone. Maya watched her lover debase himself with my prop tool, and I could see her legal mind working through the implications. "This is extortion," she said finally. "We can have him arrested." "With what evidence?" "He never threatened me directly. Never claimed the tool was real. Never asked for money." Trevor's voice was hollow. "I looked it up online. It's a perfect replica, but it's just a toy." Maya sank onto the couch beside him. "So, what does he want?" "For you to sign separation papers and for me to disappear." I chose that moment to step out of Trevor's bedroom where I'd been waiting with a digital recorder and a backup camera. "Hello, darling," I said to Maya. "Don't you look lovely today?" Mia jumped like she'd been electrocuted. "Jason, what are you doing here?" "Collecting evidence for our divorce proceedings. You know how thorough I can be when I put my mind to something." I gestured around Trevor's apartment, taking in the scattered clothes and the bottle of wine on the counter. "This is quite the love nest you two have built. You can't just break into someone's home." "I didn't break in. Trevor invited me." "Didn't you, Trevor?" Trevor nodded miserably. "See, all perfectly legal. Now, about those papers." Maya tried to negotiate, of course, offered me a counter-settlement, threatened legal action, even attempted to seduce me with promises of counseling and renewed commitment, but I'd moved beyond the bargaining stage of grief, and landed squarely in acceptance. She signed the papers. Trevor signed a statement admitting to the affair and agreeing to cease all contact with my family. I got everything on video with timestamps and GPS coordinates. Then I sent copies to Mia's law firm partners, her parents, and Alex's school principal with a note explaining that there might be some family disruption in the coming weeks. By sunset, Mia's phone was ringing constantly. By midnight, her career was effectively over. Small towns are like ant colonies. Disturb one part, and the whole structure shifts to accommodate the chaos. Maya's public humiliation sent ripples through every social circle we'd inhabited for the past decade. The video of Trevor's tool polishing session went viral on local social media within hours. Someone had leaked it from the law firm, probably one of Mia's rivals who'd been waiting years for her to stumble. I played the wounded husband perfectly, showing up at O'Malley's bar with a hangdog expression and a carefully crafted story about betrayal and heartbreak. 15 years, I told Big Mike, the bartender who'd been serving our neighborhood since before Alex was born. 15 years and she throws it away for some muscle-bound pretty boy who probably can't balance his own checkbook. That's rough, Jason. Ma always seemed like she had her head on straight. That's what I thought, too. But apparently I was just the stable provider while she shopped around for excitement. I nursed my beer and stared at the television screen showing a baseball game neither of us cared about. The worst part is finding out from a video call. She didn't even have the decency to tell me face to face. Word spread like wildfire. By the weekend, I couldn't buy my own drinks at Ali's. Everyone wanted to hear the story directly from the source, and I obliged them with just enough detail to keep them interested without seeming vindictive. Maya, meanwhile, was persona non grata everywhere she'd once been welcome. The country club revoked her membership. Her yoga instructor asked her to find a new studio. Even the grocery store clerks treated her with barely concealed disgust. Alex took her mother's side initially, which I'd expected. Teenage girls always think they understand love better than their parents. Mom made a mistake, she announced over dinner on Sunday. But that doesn't mean you have to destroy her entire life. I didn't destroy anything, sweetheart. I just revealed what was already there. Your mother made her choices. You're being vindictive and cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Our younger daughter, Lily, was 12 and still believed in fairy tale endings. She kept asking when Mommy was coming home, not understanding that some stories don't have happy conclusions. Daddy, are you and Mommy getting divorced like Emma's parents? Probably, baby girl. But that doesn't change how much we both love you. Will I have to choose sides like Emma did? No. You'll always be my daughter no matter what happens between your mother and me. Maya was staying at Claire's house, which struck me as poetic justice. The woman who'd helped orchestrate my humiliation was now harboring the consequences. Clara Reyes had always been a problem. Even when she'd worked for my security consulting business, she'd been ambitious beyond her abilities and resentful of anyone who achieved what she couldn't. I'd fired her for stealing petty cash, but the real issue had been her attitude. Clara believed the world owed her something, and she'd never forgiven me for failing to deliver on her expectations. Now she was Maya's closest confidant, offering comfort and advice during the most vulnerable period of my wife's life. It was like watching a spider comfort a fly. I decided to dig deeper into Clara's involvement in Mia's affair. Using my old security contacts, I ran background checks, financial analyses, and digital forensics on both women. What I found was illuminating. Claire had been feeding Mia advice about extramarital affairs for months, recommending Trevor specifically after meeting him at her gym. She'd helped Mia create fake alibis, provided cover stories for their meetings, and even loaned her money to buy lingerie and toys for their encounters. But the most interesting discovery was Clara's own relationship with Trevor. Bank records showed she'd been paying him for personal training sessions since last summer, months before Maya had even met him. Clara hadn't just enabled my wife's affair. She'd orchestrated it. The question was, why? What did Clara gain from destroying my marriage? The answer came from an unexpected source. My old army buddy, Detective Heron Walsh, who worked for the local police department. You asked me to run a background check on Clara Reyes, he said over coffee at a diner downtown. Interesting woman. Did you know she filed a lawsuit against you 3 years ago? What? No, she never served me with papers because her lawyer advised her to drop it. Wrongful termination, inappropriate conduct, hostile work environment, the whole package. But when her attorney looked at the evidence, he told her she didn't have a case, inappropriate conduct. I barely spoke to her except about work. That's what her own evidence showed. Emails, text messages, witness statements, nothing remotely inappropriate. But here's the interesting part. She kept paying the lawyer for months afterward, asking him to find new angles of attack. She wanted revenge. Looks that way. And now she's got it, doesn't she? Your marriage is over and your reputation is damaged and your wife is completely dependent on her for emotional support. I sat back in the booth processing this information. Claire had played a longer game than I'd realized, using Maya as a tool against me while positioning herself as the savior. There's more, Harlan continued. I did some digging into her finances. Claire's been living beyond her means for years. Credit card debt, late mortgage payments, the works. But suddenly, 3 months ago, she paid off everything. Clean slate. Where did the money come from? That's the million-dollar question. No new job, no inheritance, no lottery winnings, just a sudden influx of cash that solved all her problems. I thought about Maya's recent business trips and legal conferences. My wife made good money, but not enough to bankroll someone else's debt relief. Unless she'd been skimming from client accounts. Maya's law firm, Hartwell and Associates, specialized in high-asset divorce cases. Rich people splitting up expensive lives with lawyers taking their percentage of the misery. Maya had access to client trust accounts, escrow funds, and settlement money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars flowed through her hands every month, most of it belonging to people too distracted by their own drama to monitor every transaction. I spent a week building a case against her, using my security background to trace financial patterns and digital footprints. Maya had been careful, but not careful enough to fool someone who'd investigated insurgent funding networks in the Middle East. The embezzlement had started small, a few hundred here and there, always from accounts with large balances and distracted owners. But as her affair with Trevor intensified, so did her theft. Expensive dinners, hotel rooms, gifts, and eventually Clara's debt relief. Maya had stolen nearly $50,000 over 4 months, funneling it through a complex web of cash withdrawals, prepaid credit cards, and cryptocurrency exchanges. I compiled everything into a comprehensive report complete with bank records, transaction logs, and photographic evidence. Then, I made copies and prepared to deliver them to the appropriate authorities. But first, I wanted to confront Clara directly. I found her at the gym where she'd first introduced Maya to Trevor. She was on a treadmill running nowhere at a steady pace, sweat beading on her forehead as she stared at a muted television screen. "Hello, Clara." She nearly fell off the machine. "Jason, you scared me. Sorry about that. Can we talk?" Clara stepped off the treadmill and grabbed a towel. She was trying to look casual, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "If this is about Maya, I don't think we should. It's about you, actually. And your interesting financial situation." The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you do. $50,000 in stolen money funneled through my wife's client accounts to pay off your debts. That's federal fraud, Clara. Prison time." She sat down heavily on a nearby bench. "You can't prove anything." I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo of a bank deposit slip with her signature. "Actually, I can prove everything." Maya kept meticulous records, probably without realizing she was documenting her own crimes. "What do you want? The truth? Why did you do this to my family?" Clara stared at the floor for a long moment. When she looked up, her eyes were filled with tears and rage. "You destroyed my life," she said quietly. "I had a good job, a steady income, a future. Then you fired me over $200 in petty cash. You were stealing from me. I was broke. My husband had left. My car was repossessed. I was facing eviction. I took money I planned to pay back. And you destroyed me for it. So, you decided to destroy my marriage in return. I decided to show Maya who you really are. A controlling, vindictive man who ruins people's lives over minor mistakes." I sat down beside her on the bench. And Trevor, was he part of your plan from the beginning? Clara nodded. I hired him to seduce Maya, paid him $5,000 to pursue her, make her feel desired and appreciated. I thought she'd have a simple affair. You'd find out, and you'd divorce quietly. But it got complicated. Maya fell in love with him, really in love. She started talking about leaving you, building a new life, starting fresh. She needed money for that, and I helped her get it by stealing from her clients, by giving her the freedom to choose her own happiness. I stood up and looked down at Clara. She seemed smaller now. Diminished by her own confession. You didn't give her freedom, I said. You gave her a noose, and now we're all going to hang. I rented a lakeside house an hour outside of town, a secluded property with no neighbors and excellent cell phone reception, the kind of place where people could have loud conversations without worrying about eavesdroppers. Then I sent carefully worded invitations to Maya, Trevor, Clara, and Alex. A family intervention to discuss our future and resolve our differences like adults. Maya was suspicious, of course, but she was also desperate. Her career was over, her reputation was ruined, and her legal troubles were just beginning. She needed a way out, and I was offering what looked like a negotiation. Trevor came because Clara told him to. He had become completely dependent on her guidance since our encounter at his apartment, following her instructions like a trained dog. Alex came because I asked her to, and despite everything, she still respected me enough to honor my requests. Clara came because she knew I had evidence that could send her to prison, and she wanted to find a way to neutralize the threat. They arrived separately on Saturday afternoon, each carrying their own agenda and expectations. I met them at the door with cold drinks and a warm smile. Thank you all for coming, I said, leading them into the main room. I know this situation has been difficult for everyone, but I think we can find a solution that works for all of us. The room was spacious and comfortable with large windows overlooking the lake and hidden cameras recording everything from multiple angles. I'd learned the value of documentation during my military service, and I wasn't about to have this conversation without proof of what was said. Maya sat on the couch beside Alex, trying to project maternal authority despite her obvious nervousness. Trevor chose a chair near the door, probably planning his escape route. Clara positioned herself where she could see everyone. The puppet master maintaining visual control of her players. Before we begin, I said, I want everyone to understand that this conversation is being recorded for legal purposes. If anyone objects, they're free to leave. No one moved. Good. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Maya, you've been having an affair with Trevor for 4 months. Clara, you've been enabling and encouraging that affair as part of a revenge scheme against me, and all of you have been lying to Alex about what's really happening in our family. Alex looked confused. What revenge scheme? I pulled out a folder of documents and spread them across the coffee table. Bank records, email printouts, photographs, and witness statements. Clara hired Trevor to seduce your mother, I explained. She paid him $5,000 to destroy our marriage because she blamed me for her financial problems. That's not true, Clara protested. It's all documented. Trevor, do you want to tell Alex how much Clara paid you or should I? Trevor stared at the floor. $5,000, but it wasn't like that. I really cared about Maya. You cared about the money. I corrected. And when that ran out, Maya started stealing from her clients to keep financing your relationship. Maya shot to her feet. I never stole anything. I handed Alex a bank statement showing a $10,000 withdrawal from a client trust account. This is from the Henderson divorce case. Mrs. Henderson's settlement money withdrawn by your mother and deposited into a cryptocurrency account. Alex studied the document, her face growing pale. Mom, is this real? Maya sat back down heavily. It's complicated, sweetheart. I was going to pay it back. With what money? Your law license is suspended. Your bank accounts are frozen. And your boyfriend here can't afford his own rent. Trevor finally looked up. Maya, you told me that money was yours. I was protecting you. I didn't want you to worry about finances. You were committing felonies, I said. Federal crimes that carry prison sentences. All of you are accessories to fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The room fell silent, except for the sound of Alex crying softly. But here's the good news, I continued. I'm prepared to make this all go away. What do you want? Maya asked. Full custody of both girls, the house, the cars, and all joint assets. Your written confession to the embezzlement with a commitment to make full restitution. And Trevor and Clara disappear from our lives permanently. And if we refuse, I picked up my phone and showed them a draft email addressed to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Then I send this report to federal investigators along with all the supporting evidence. Maya goes to prison for 5 to 10 years. Clara gets charged as an accessory. Trevor probably walks, but his reputation is destroyed forever. You're blackmailing us, Claire said. I'm offering you a choice. Prison or exile. Take your pick. Alex wiped her eyes and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Dad, this is really messed up. Yes, it is. But I didn't create this mess, sweetheart. I'm just cleaning it up. Trevor stood up suddenly. I can't do this anymore. Maya, I'm sorry, but I never signed up for federal crimes. I just wanted to make some easy money. Sit down, Trevor. Clara commanded. No, I'm done taking orders from you. He turned to me. What do you want me to sign? I handed him a pre-written statement admitting to his role in the conspiracy and agreeing to cease all contact with my family. Trevor read it quickly and signed without hesitation. There, he said, I'm out. Maya, I'm sorry it ended this way, but I can't go to prison for you. Ma stared at him in shock. You're abandoning me. I'm saving myself just like you've been doing this whole time. Trevor walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at me. For what it's worth, Jason, your wife never loved me. She was just using me to hurt you. We all were. After he left, the dynamic in the room shifted. Clara had lost her primary ally. Maya had lost her lover. And Alex was seeing her mother's true character for the first time. Mom, Alex said quietly. Did you really steal money from your clients? Maya tried to explain, to justify, to minimize, but the evidence was overwhelming, and Alex was smart enough to understand the implications. I was going to pay it back, Maya repeated. It was just temporary. Temporary fraud is still fraud, I said. And $50,000 isn't petty cash. Clara made one last attempt to regain control. Maya, don't listen to him. We can fight this. Hire a good lawyer. Claim entrapment. Argue that Jason forced you into this situation. With what money? Maya asked. I'm broke, unemployed, and facing federal charges. Jason's offering me a way out. He's offering you exile and poverty. He's offering me freedom. Maya corrected. The chance to start over without going to prison. I pulled out the separation agreement and divorce papers. Everything's already prepared. Sign these and you can walk away from this mess. Refuse and face the consequences. Maya read through the documents carefully, her legal training evident in how she examined each clause and condition. She was losing everything, but she was avoiding something much worse. What about the girls? She asked. Supervised visitation until you've made full restitution and completed counseling. After that, we'll reassess. And Clara? Clara's problems are her own. She can explain to the FBI why she orchestrated this conspiracy, or she can disappear and hope they never find her. Claire stood up abruptly. This is insane, Maya. You can't let him dictate terms like this. I can and I will, Mia said, signing the papers. I'm tired, Clara. Tired of lying, tired of stealing, tired of pretending this was ever going to end well. Clara stared at her in disbelief. After everything I did for you, everything you did to me, Mia corrected. You used me to get revenge on Jason, and I was too stupid to see it. Clara looked around the room, realizing. She was completely alone. No allies, no leverage, no options. Fine, she said. But this isn't over, Jason. You think you've won, but you've just made enemies for life. I can live with that, I replied. After Clara stormed out and Maya left to pack her belongings, I sat alone with Alex by the lake. The sun was setting, painting the water in shades of gold and crimson. Are you proud of yourself? Alex asked. I'm satisfied, I said. Or there's a difference. You destroyed Mom's entire life. Your mother destroyed her own life. I just documented the process. Alex threw a stone into the water, watching the ripples spread across the surface. What happens now? Now we rebuild. You and Lily and me. We figure out how to be a family again without Mom. Your mother made her choices, sweetheart. She chose Trevor over our marriage. She chose theft over honesty. She chose Clara's revenge scheme over our family's stability. I didn't force her to do any of those things. But you forced her to face the consequences. Yes, I did. Because consequences matter. Actions have results, and people need to be held accountable for their decisions. Alex was quiet for a long time, processing everything she'd learned. Finally, she looked at me with eyes that seemed older than her 17 years. Dad, are you the good guy or the bad guy in this story? I considered the question carefully. I'm the guy who got tired of being played for a fool. Whether that makes me good or bad depends on your perspective. And what's your perspective? That I did what I had to do to protect my family and my future. Everything else is just noise. We drove home in comfortable silence. Both of us understanding that our relationship had changed forever. Alex had seen her father at his most ruthless, and I had shown her that sometimes the world requires ruthless men to set things right. Over the next few weeks, the consequences of that lakeside confrontation rippled through our small town like aftershocks from an earthquake. Maya moved to another state, taking a job as a paralegal while she worked to pay back the money she'd stolen. She sent letters to Alex and Lily trying to explain her actions and maintain some connection with her daughters. Trevor disappeared entirely, probably to start fresh somewhere else with a new identity and a new set of lies. I never saw him again, which was exactly what I'd wanted. Claire tried to fight the charges initially, hiring a lawyer and claiming she was innocent of any wrongdoing, but the evidence was overwhelming, and eventually she accepted a plea bargain that sent her to federal prison for 18 months. Alex struggled with the aftermath. Torn between loyalty to her mother and respect for the truth. She started seeing a counselor, which helped her process the complex emotions of watching her family implode. Lily adapted more easily, probably because she was younger and more resilient. She missed her mother, but she understood that some people make mistakes that can't be easily forgiven. As for me, I returned to my security consulting business with a reputation for thoroughness and discretion. Word spread about how I'd handled my personal crisis, and clients began seeking me out specifically because they knew I could uncover hidden truths and protect their interests. I never remarried, never even dated seriously. I'd learned that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild, and I wasn't interested in taking that risk again. But I was content. My daughters were safe, my finances were secure, and my enemies had been neutralized. I'd played a long game against people who thought they were smarter than me, and I'd won decisively. Sometimes late at night, I would sit in my garage working on the Mustang and think about that first FaceTime call. The moment when my old life ended and my new one began, the moment when I stopped being a victim and started being something else entirely. Maya had called me vindictive and cruel. Claire had called me controlling and dangerous. Trevor had called me psychotic and obsessed. They were probably right on all counts. But they were also defeated, exiled, and forgotten while I was home with my daughters, building a future on the ruins of their schemes. In the end, that's all that mattered. Not whether I was the hero or the villain of the story, but whether I was the one left standing when the dust settled. And I was. Stories like this don't end, they echo. If you want the next chapter, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next twist. Until then, stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, in every story, someone is always watching.